This video is gonna explain the topic that we've been covering on system of equations, and I'm gonna hit both methods, substitution and elimination. So starting with substitution. With substitution, one equation must be equal to a variable. Okay, so if you want to use substitution, one equation must be equal to a variable. So that means either solve for x or y. Okay, so must variable either x or y. Okay, so if I take a look at this, this is not readily set up for me to do substitution, because this one, the bottom one, is not equal, is not set, or it's not equal to a variable. It says x minus y equals. It says 4x plus 2y equals. So I'm looking for something, I wanted to say either x equals or y equals. And that is key, and I must do for substitution. I don't have to set both of them equal, I just pick one. And it looks like this one's a lot easier to work with, okay? So I'm gonna grab this one here, okay? And I am gonna solve, looks like it would be easier to solve for x. You can solve for x or y, doesn't matter. But I'm gonna choose to solve for x. Okay, so here, what I can do is I can add y to both sides, right? Because I want to move it to the other side of the equation, so I need this to be 0. Okay, so I'm left with x equals y plus 13, or you could write 13 plus y is the same thing. Notice now I have x equals, right? Must be equal to a variable, x equals. So this is nice, now it's set up. So all of this is equal to x. So I'm gonna go to the other equation, I'm gonna find x, and I'm gonna substitute. I'm gonna substitute x with y plus 13 to the other equation, because I know x equals this. So therefore, if I see an x here, instead of writing x, I can write y plus 13. So I'm going to rewrite this down here, and it's going to look like 4. Now the 4 and the x are being multiplied. So I'm going to say 4 times all of this. So y plus 13, and then I'm just gonna continue writing here, plus 2y equals 10. Okay, so all I did was plug that into x, we got it written here. Now I have to multiply first, and this is distribution because 4 has to be multiplied to both terms. So I'm left with 4 times y, which is 4y. 4 times 13. 4 times 13 is, quick math, 52. Right. Plus 2y equals 10. So I distributed, and then I just rewrote everything else. Now it's just solving for y. Well, combining like terms and solving for y. If I take a look at this one and this one, these are like terms. They both have a y, and they're on the same side of the equation. So I don't have to do none of this minus, no. Just, this is 4y, excuse me, this is 4y, and this is 2y. So 4y plus 2y is 6y. Then I have a plus 52, and then equals 10. 52 and 10 are like terms, so I want to combine, but I'm going across the equal sign. So here, I'm going to subtract 52, subtract 52, and I'm left with, this would be 0. So I'm left with y equals, and that would be minus negative 42. So what I'm going to do for the last step to lead to solve for y is divide by 6. Okay, so y equals a negative 7. Now, I'm not done there. I have to plug that in and solve for x. Now, this one looks a lot easier, so I'm going to plug into this one. I'm going to rewrite it over here. So we know what y equals, so I'm going to rewrite this. Say x minus y equals a negative 7. And then it's equal to 13. Notice, just because this is negative doesn't mean that you don't have to include that negative. Nope, that negative's still there. So negative with negative would be positive. Okay, and now I'm going to solve for x by subtracting 7 from both sides. Okay, so this would be 0, and I'm left with x equals 13 minus 7 would be 6. Okay, for this one, elimination. Okay, this one, this one is set up for me to do elimination because I have x and x. So what I do with elimination is x x lines up with x and y with y, right? So, and y, same thing with y, just like I see here, right? X lines up with x, y lines up with y. Okay, so my purpose here is to eliminate, cancel one of these. Okay, either x or y, and I'm going to choose x. Now, if I take a look at x, I have two positive numbers. I can't get it to 0 if I have two positives, so one of them is going to have a negative. Now, if you look at this, these are not the same quantities. I need to get them to be the same quantities. So what I'm going to do is multiply this one by a negative 2. Because if I multiply negative 2 times x, then I'm left with negative 2x and 2x. Different signs, excuse me, different signs, same quantity, okay? So I'm gonna rewrite this one, I'm gonna rewrite that one and write it here. And all I'm doing there is distributing this negative 2 to each term. Okay, so negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Negative 2 times 7y is negative 14y. Negative 2 times 0 will just be 0. Okay, so now I have them lined up and I have the same quantity, different signs. This 2x minus 2x will be 0, which is what we want. We want to eliminate one of these. Okay, negative 8y minus 14y, okay, will be negative 22y. Okay, 22 plus 0 is equal to 22. So all I have to do there is divide by negative 22 to isolate the y. So I'm left with y equals a negative 1. Not done. I still have to plug it back in. And I'm going to choose this one because they have smaller numbers than this one. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite this one here in a different color. So I'm going to plug that in. I'm going to rewrite this. And instead of writing y, I'm going to write negative 1. So this one, x plus 7, and the 7 and the y are being multiplied. Okay, y is negative 1 equals 0. So now I can say, I can multiply these two, and I would get negative 7. So negative 7 equals 0. Okay. So solving for x, the only thing I would have to do is move these 7 to the other side of the equation by doing the opposite operation, because I want this to be 0. And I'm just left with an x equals 0 plus 7, which is be 7. So my two answers is x equals 7 and y equals negative 1. Okay, so these are two main methods used for system of equation. Hopefully this helps.